You'll notice who's real in your life until things get hard. You know, you don't notice who's real in your life until things get hard. And as somebody who don't like going through pain, who don't like suffering, I don't want to go through that. But if I have to, I'm gonna go through it. But somebody like me who don't want to go through that, the only time I noticed who was really there for me was people who stayed around when I was going through a very difficult moment in my life. Plenty of times, whether I lost a job, I didn't have a place to go, I didn't even have money. The only time I noticed the love was real was when I couldn't help them the way they helped me. I wasn't able to pay them at the moment. I needed a place to stay, I needed food to eat. And people helped out. And then there was people in my life who pretended, but you can only pretend for so long. And the reason why I say this topic, because you only notice who's real in your life when your life gets hard. And if it wasn't for those hard moments, if you didn't lose sometimes, you really wouldn't know who's really there for you. You really wouldn't know who's really has your back at the end of the day. You really wouldn't know who really truly love you, and who is truly willing to sacrifice certain things in their life to keep you here. And as you grow in this life, and as you want to, go up or change your life, become a millionaire, change your finances, you truly have to look at your circle. You truly have to look at the people that you talk to on a day-to-day basis. You have to look at the people you follow. You have to look at the people you take advice from. You have to be very, very mindful. And I think a lot of people avoid these type of talks because they already know about 60% of people in their life is just around for a good time, you know? And I just got tired one day and made my mind like, I don't need anybody around me but God. And I'll keep those close, whoever he choose or make me want to keep, in my life. I lost a lot of friends. I lost a lot of associates. I even lost relationships, because things got hard. And, as somebody who tried to do better, I always wanted to do better in life. I always. But, if it wasn't for those hard times, I really wouldn't know. I probably would have always blamed myself. I probably would always blame myself. I probably would always felt like it was my fault that things didn't work out the way they did. But if it wasn't for those hard times, I really wouldn't know that they, would do what they do. And, it's funny how people treat you when they think you're stuck in a certain place. And I think that's the greatest thing about God is that he put you in places sometimes where it seems like you're not going to make it out, but only God knows the ending. And that's what makes God awesome and so great, is because he can still see the best in you in a situation where you don't even see yourself making it out of. But he will use that moment to reveal who really care about you. He will use that moment to reveal who's really there for you. He will even use that moment to show you that he's still there for you, even in your darkest time. And it's only right on this channel I, give God the glory and honor, because I've been through a lot of pain. I've been through a lot of suffering by my own choices in life, and it's only by the grace of God I'm still here. And I'm talking on this video, talking on this channel. And, but he allowed the things that I did to myself, the terrible choices. I was even warned plenty of times about leaving certain people alone or not associating myself with them. And I was hard-headed, and he allowed the effect, to happen. But he didn't allow it to destroy me, and that's why I thank God a lot, because he could have allowed it even though he already warned me. But he loved me enough to not allow it to destroy me. Now, if it wasn't for those hard times, I probably wouldn't hold on to those people or those relationships, And to me, it's just very important because people will see your potential and they will see, you on the rise, and then they'll try to find ways to get back into your life. Not to help you, but to benefit something for themselves. These type of people, they don't look at your life as something that, they don't see you as just a regular person. They see you as an opportunity to gain what they want, opportunity to use you to get to where they want to be. And that type of mindset, you never really make it far, because you should never depend on the next man, or you should never try to use the next man to get to where you want to be in life. You don't need a human being to get to where you want to in life. You need God. And honestly, it's crazy. It was so much that happened in my life that allowed me to see that people aren't real during hard times. And you really notice who's there for you when you can't even help yourself. You really know who's there for you when you really don't have a job. You really know who's there for you when you're at rock bottom. A lot of us complain about being at rock bottom, but we never talk about the things we notice. We don't talk about these things enough, where we notice how people don't reach out as much as they do. They don't check on you as much as they do. But as soon as you push yourself again and you out of the storm and God has helped you and you back on your feet and you posting yourself, here go the fake love. But where were y'all when I was going through a difficult time in my life, or a difficult time in my life to the point I wanted to kill myself? And it's funny how nobody's there in the dark. Nobody. But the people God has placed in your life and God himself. And to me, I try to be not mindful, but I try to keep the people who was there for me at my lowest, to keep them around at all times. It don't matter the history. It don't matter. They were here for me during my lowest times when I couldn't give that, or if I owed that person something, they was there for me. And to me, that's truly important. That's family. If you're somebody who can help me out, if you're somebody who can help me out in my lowest moment, and I can't even repay you at the moment, we're family. You get what I'm saying? Not because I couldn't pay you back, but because you chose to help me out at my lowest point. And on social media, they talk about you not having this and you not having that, but at the end of the day, we're gonna die without these things, And it's crazy how people will value materialistic things rather than a genuine, true relationship, And it's heartbreaking, being crossed for the things you have, or being envied over, or just being knocked down because they think you're gonna stay stuck in that position. And then God will raise you up and then humble them. It's crazy, man, but you truly have to evaluate your circle, and you continuously have to pray and ask God to remove anybody who don't benefit him, who don't benefit your life, and who is just leading you astray. And I lost a lot of friends once I started asking God to clean up my life, to remove the distractions and the people that aren't serving me. It got real. That's a prayer that will get answered fast. As soon as you ask God to remove those who are not for you, who doesn't help you go to where you need to be, And I noticed that I was around a lot of distractions. I was around a lot of people who really didn't want much for themselves. They would just all talk. So you really just have to pray about it. You have to have discernment and just look at your circle and see who's really there for you. Because when you're at your lowest, you need somebody to keep you up.